Off Script with Trish Glose, intimate interviews and conversations with interesting people. And in front of my microphone today is Stacy Van Voorhees.
Good afternoon.
Hello,
Trish.
hello.
Hello.
You are the Outreach and Administration Manager at the Rogue Valley Growers and Crafters Market. I believe that's the longest title.
I was going to say, that's a mouthful, right? Yeah.
In the history of titles. Also, you brought me a tomato.
Because you're one hot tomato. It
Look at
actually
this.
matches your whole thing going on here, Trish.
I'm wearing like these
Look at you.
coral shorts. It kind of matches the shorts. I love it.
It's
No one's ever brought me a tomato.
Yeah, it's a striped tiger from Wandering Roots, and it's delicious. It won kind of, public favorite of our taste-off that we had this past week. So
Awesome. How are things at the Growers Market?
things are wonderful. We had a beautiful sunshiny day yesterday. Lots of people coming out, even though school started. We're on until November, so
That's right.
just want to remind everybody to keep coming out.
That sunshiny day. I think that's lyrics from a Brady Bunch song.
Yeah, I'd say you're right there.
Okay, we're going to talk about the Growers Market, maybe just a touch, but
Okay.
you're kind of an interesting gal. So I'm going to start with, where are you from originally?
I'm from suburban Philadelphia
Okay.
in Pennsylvania. Pretty much the idyllic childhood, kind of basic at the same time,
Right.
Fourth grade, I was one of my, just some benchmarks. I was elected to be the king of Mathland in fourth grade, which was a pretty big deal.
The king
Yeah,
of
the
math?
king.
There's
Yeah.
no queen?
No, I beat out another dude, and they're like, "Well, it's the role as the king, so you're the king." I know. It
Right.
was my feminist fourth grade.
Okay, Mathland.
Yeah.
What
king of
was
Mathland.
What was Mathland?
We just explored all the different
Okay.
math concepts. It was pretty fun.
Did you grow up with siblings?
I have a sister. Yep.
Okay.
She's
Older,
real
younger?
Close, a year and a half younger. It was her
Oh.
birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Stephanie.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, and I'm a Pisces. She's a Virgo, so we were always pretty opposite. But we get along great now.
Okay. So I don't want to I'm always careful about age. What decade are we talking?
Oh, the 1900s. Yeah, for sure. The era with the best music might be a general description.
Okay.
A little disco, a little.
All right. I
little
see where you're
Grateful
going.
Dead.
Okay. I see where you're going.
Yeah, I'm old. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not afraid.
So parents, two parents, a
Two
sister.
parents. Yep, they stayed together until my dad died a few years ago. And
Wow.
classic. My dad was an aerospace engineer, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom for the most part.
Wow.
And it was. My dad was a super strong. I'm kind of more like him. He was a big bad Scorpio. We got the height from him. I've always been 6 foot tall since like 6th grade. So
Okay.
my son is now 6'8.5" at 14.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's but tallness is kind of wasted on our family. Like everybody asked me if we played basketball going through life, and it was like, we're the clumsiest humans ever,
Nice.
and no competitive spirit.
What a
Wow.
waste.
Total
What a waste. So your dad was an aerospace engineer. Where did he work?
He worked at Lockheed Martin in his later days, but he was with GE. He was with the steel mills back in the day, when they were still steel mills. So
Wow. What a
really
smarty
hard
pants.
worker. Yeah, he was a force with which to reckon. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, so what were you like in high school?
Pretty much Dorcas Maximus. In 8th grade, I won Student of the Year, which was awesome. And that was about the same time the band director pegged me for a big, giant baritone player for the marching band. He's like, "Oh, you don't feel awkward enough? Here's this big, giant brass instrument that you have to carry around with you."
So wait, you played
Okay.
baritone?
Yeah, baritone horn. Had to work on the,
That's a lot of
lips.
spitting.
Yeah, a lot of spitting. But I was the only girl in the whole baritone section for 4 years, and we went to the Parade of Roses. Our band was totally badass, and I started working at Chi-Chi's in high school as a job. I actually applied at, have you heard of Sesame Place?
No.
It's like the only Sesame Place, and that was right in our hometown, and they wouldn't have me because I couldn't work weekends because of the marching band. So I ended up in restaurant land.
Yeah,
and
Chi-Chi's. That's
it was
like
a Mexican restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was kind of an East Coast thing, and I believe it's defunct now, but it was so fun, and I busted a hump really hard.
How old were you when you were working
16,
there?
day after I turned 16, I started working, and I've never stopped since.
Right. I loved working in restaurants as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's older than you for the most part, and it's just fun. You
get into the clubs.
Yeah, totally.
Well, especially being older looking, so.
You get into trouble a little bit that way, but it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
My first job, I guess, was a hostess at Chili's in Las Vegas.
Wow, we're almost in parallel universes.
Yes.
Las Vegas, wow.
Yeah.
That's some trouble
That's a whole nother story. So in the marching band, so obviously you're a big fan of music then.
Oh yeah. I studied piano for a long time when I was a kid, and marching band was just an amazing life experience. Teamwork and keeping in step, and music is a huge part of my deal. I just got a surprise ukulele in the mail from my friend, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
And I have my mom's guitar, so I'm thinking about moving into the strings category.
Okay.
But it's going to take a little mind shift.
Have you ever picked up a guitar before to play?
Yes, but never succeeded so much. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
It's really hard. I'm a piano player.
Mm-hmm.
My stepdad plays guitar, and he's amazing at it. And he taught me, what's that song, Hang Down Your Head, Tom Dooley?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, well, it's a
That's
song.
That's before my time, maybe?
It's a song, I swear. But playing it was like, the Hang Down Your Head, Tom. And then you have to find the next chord, and there's this ginormous pause.
Not super smooth. I know.
At all.
Like looking and
Okay, so ukulele's next.
Yeah, I think ukulele's a little easier than the guitar. You can just sort of do that Mahala thing on the beach. Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Okay.
Yeah, and I love to sing. One of my goals is to become part of the World Music Choir in the Rogue Valley.
Ooh.
Oh, and get on Rogue Valley Dancing with the Stars. That's one of my goals too.
That's actually one of my goals. I don't know if I could ever do that.
Aren't you in charge of that?
No.
Oh, okay.
You would
I
think.
thought I saw it. Well, maybe the station is a sponsor or something.
I think it's our competition.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. No. It's all right.
Gotta start your own.
Someday, Stacy.
Yeah.
Someday. So what came after high school then?
After high school, I went right to Penn State for college, and that was amazing. I mean, it's sort of like out here, just the campus is just mountains surrounded. It's in a valley, Happy Valley, Pennsylvania. And I always hated the whole, if people were like, oh, you're going to join a sorority? And I'm like, no way, I hate the Greek thing. I was so GD independent and did my own thing. I went to school abroad junior year to Japan for a year, which was life-changing also. Studied Japanese for a long time in school, and we had a little, I almost got kicked out actually because I always have to work. I'm always having jobs to support, my fun-loving personality, because you need money to have fun for the most part, despite what Lady Gaga says.
That's true.
And so I made all this money at a hostess bar, which was so cool. And I ran a team that sang karaoke at beer gardens. And so I had all this money for a break. We had 6 weeks, and I called a travel agent, and I said, I want to travel across the world. And so I took a ferry from Japan to China, did the Great Wall in Beijing, almost got stuck there, got on the Trans-Siberian Express, went to Moscow and spent some time there, sent my passport out with the cleaning lady and got lambasted from her about that. I went from there to Vienna and ate Chinese food and just totally went inside myself because it was very intense trip. I'm hoping to write a book about this. This is
one
of my other goals. I turned 21 on the Trans-Siberian Express, actually. Yeah.
Were you by yourself?
Yep. Yeah. A lot of my friends went down to Thailand with each other and had a great, group time. But for whatever reason, I just felt the need to, set out on my own. And it was just fabulous. I can't believe I made it out alive, honestly. But
it's like a page right out of Eat, Pray, Love or something.
Yeah, it really was, and going the other way, kind of. But then, from Vienna, I took a train. I was gonna go to Germany and fly home. I met a dude on the train, and he's like, "Oh, you should go to Paris." So I'm like, "Oh, let's go to Paris together." And he got off at the next stop, and I'm like, "Well, I guess I'm not gonna have fun with this guy." And then I got kicked off the train Anyway, it was just like one thing after the other. But I did end up back home, and I surprised my parents. I just rang the doorbell, They had no idea it was coming. That's the other thing. Like, I didn't tell them where I was going to be. So had I disappeared into the ether, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Right. Well, it's probably a good thing you didn't, because they would have maybe massively worried about you.
Oh, yeah. That was part of the reason I did not say that. So.
Do you look back, and is that one of, like, the great things that you've done in your life?
Yeah. I mean, I could die today and never travel again, mainly just because of that trip and some of the other travel I've done. If we get to it, we'll get to it.
I feel like traveling abroad, especially like that you did at 21, it's so intimidating for me at 38. I mean, that's, I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Well, traveling's a lot different now, I think, than back then. Just, there was no internet, obviously. Oh, now I'm dating myself again. But, I have travel agent itineraries written in Chinese, and I didn't know Chinese. I knew some Japanese, but I really had to fend for myself and figure it out and use my brain and like be light on your loafers. Yeah. But that's one of the reasons I kind of want to write about it, because travel today is so much different, and maybe it would be some, a tale of yore and how it used to be.
Was there any great lesson you learned from that trip?
Yeah, never put your passport in your pocket and send it out with the housekeeper. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Was that big trouble?
Yeah, well, luckily she brought it back and was like in Russian. I didn't know Russian, but I could tell clearly she was saying, "You are a stupid American," And
with some other colorful language.
Yeah. Well, and another lesson is to just, traveling and learning foreign languages and seeing other cultures is how you really just have to be open-minded and humble and connect with who you're connecting with, whether you speak their language or not.
Okay.
There are ways to communicate.
You've traveled more since then.
Yep. Well, I feel like also, I've been to Bali, I've been to Italy, I've been to France, and not so much South America. That's sort of a goal moving forward. But again, I kind of miss it. I have a little bit of travel lust right now, but it's like I said, I've done enough in my life that if I would die today, I'd be happy.
Okay. Yeah. So you showed up at your parents' house, rang the doorbell. You're 21.
Yep.
Okay. Did you go back to school?
Yeah. Well, and so when my sister answered the door, it was just this utter look of confusion. I remember so clear, they had Heineken beer and Pizza Hut pizza. And after traveling and eating on trains, and I was just it was just ecstatic, and my mom was crying, and my dad was like, "What is happening?" And so like, I went back.
Yeah, give me a beer and some pie.
Cheers. Salamat minum. I spent some time there. I visited Penn State, my friends, and same thing. It was like a ghost. They're like, "Why are you here? I don't get it." But then I went back to Japan, and that's when I almost got kicked out of school, because we're not supposed to work at hostess bars, and
because you're supposed to be studying.
Yeah,
only?
Yeah, and it just so happens those were the worst grades I've ever had in my life when I was in Japan. But you're
in Japan.
There were so many things to do. Yeah, it was amazing. Went back for the second half of the year, then returned to Penn State for my last year.
Okay.
That was awesome. Worked at a place called Cafe 210 West. So I always have had bar jobs. And I just love the camaraderie with the people you work with. The cash is great.
I was just going to say the stack of dollar bills does not suck.
Yeah, it was a hard time transitioning out of that, I'll tell you what. And then so after I graduated, I moved to D.C. because I was thinking of becoming foreign service because of how much I love travel and languages and foreign cultures. And then I learned how difficult the Foreign Service exam was supposed to be. And I'm like, I'm going to work at this nightclub over here. And I ended up working at a crystal store with these crazy, like, they weren't hippies. They were hipsters before hipsters, I think,
Okay.
And they were all married to each other. And that's where I learned how to, read crystals and tarot cards, and had funky fashion shows with wacky clothes in Georgetown. And so DC was great. And then I thought I was going to move out to California to pursue stardom, with because I always wanted to model and act and all that stuff. And
sure.
California kind of kicked my butt a little. I got super sick, but ended up in Vegas and met this little dude on a dance floor. We were the only ones out there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I just got off a national tour of Hair, Hair the musical."
I do know Hair the musical.
So I started freaking out about how much I love Hair, and he's like, "Oh well, there's an audition for another national tour coming up in New York in a couple weeks. You want to go?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm hearing on the West Coast. I can't do that. And I just could not let it go of it. I just knew all the songs. And so I called him up like the next week. I said, is that really an offer? And he's like, yeah, I'll set it up. And it was with the original creators of the musical.
Wow.
Can't place the names at the moment, but, I got on a plane. I landed. It was the snowstorm of a millennium that weekend. I got some sheet music together. I got costumes together. And I went in for these auditions, and I got final callbacks, and I missed it by this much. Oh my God, Trish. It was like this. So this is what brought me to New York City, which is the next chapter. So it was an amazing experience, but I was so mad that I didn't get it. And you know why? It's because, and you're in a small room, you're auditioning. They're like, okay, now sing Aquarius like you're in a, 10,000 seat amphitheater outside, project.
Really project, right?
Yeah, but you're in a little box like this, and there's 10 people standing in front of you, and I'd never had any vocal training or really anything. I was totally winging it, and I just didn't project enough for them, and was the feedback I got from my friend Walter, who hooked me
Still,
up.
though, you made it. You got there.
Oh,
and even
yeah.
if you didn't, you still went.
Right.
You still, sort of took that
That's
leap
true.
and got on a plane and made it happen.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I've never been afraid to make a Dorcas out of myself. Somehow, I guess it's one of my superpowers.
Okay.
I have bravery beyond ego. So yeah, and that was what brought me there, and I stayed and pursued more of all that showbiz stuff, and actually landed in cigars had a big part in my New York life. I worked in a cigar bar and met a bunch of celebrities. I don't know if I can name drop on this show or not. But
Yeah, name drop away. Who'd you meet?
Okay. Well, I worked at a place called Monkey Bar. It's pretty famous, schwanky restaurant bar in New York. And I've always been told that I look like Sigourney Weaver for whatever reason.
Yes, you do.
We're both tall and so forth. So she came into lunch one day and with her writers, and I sent her a Frangelico as an after lunch, sippy sip. And yeah, so she passed back through the bar and thanked me for it, which was cool enough to begin with, I thought. And I said, oh, by the way, people always tell me I look like you. And she said, whoa, I'm flattered. Can you believe that? From a celebrity? I was like,
wow.
You're flattered. Okay, yeah.
Kudos
Can we
to
go to
Sigourney.
make a movie
Yeah.
together? Oh, I'll call you later. Yeah.
Stunt double? Anyone?
Yeah,
Anyone?
exactly. And then, the Grand Havana Room was this cigar club on the top of the Sixes, just a view for miles. Arnold Schwarzenegger sent me flowers there. I met Mel Gibson. One night out at a club, I met Bruce Willis, and he invited me to a party at his place. That was
Wow.
a really fun party, let me tell you.
I didn't realize this is serious name dropping right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope I'm not going to get in trouble. It's okay, Bruce. I won't tell everything.
She's not going to reveal all of your secrets.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was on the David Letterman show once.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I worked at a cool restaurant next door at Sullivan Theater, and he would go around and highlight different businesses sometimes.
Right.
So,
yes.
yeah, I was in the front of the line. The whole crew just came in and served the audience surf and turf was what it was.
Okay.
And I was on stage with a dessert and a martini for Dave, and he looked all scared because he wasn't drinking at the time. I'm like, dude, it's just water. It's okay. It's a prop.
Nice.
Yeah, but he was super cool. And
have you seen him lately, by the way? David Letterman?
I've tried to watch his show.
The beard has taken on like a new address.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. He just seems... I get kind of bored watching that show. He seems a little on the bitter side. Anyway, anywho. Yeah, lots of cool celebrity sightings and meetings. Oh, and the other thing, and this led to how my husband and I got together.
Love it.
I was doing event planning for another club in New York, and it was Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas's birthday party. They have the same birthday, so they threw a big bash, and I was kind of second in charge. Yeah, sure. Hanging out with John Goodman and Dan Aykroyd and Daryl Hannah, and no biggie, I got invited to the Saturday Night Live 25th anniversary party, which was the next day.
Awesome.
And at the Rainbow Room. And I accepted. And then the next day, the person who invited me bailed. He said, "Oh, I'm not feeling good. I'm not going to go." It was one of the lawyers. It wasn't a celebrity, but I got his name. I'm like, "Oh, well, that's too bad you can't go." And made full-on plans to crash.
Good.
And hobnob with Conan O'Brien a little bit, and the bartender downstairs was getting off of work, and that was this guy, Tommy Van Voorhees. He had a stand-up comedy show he was producing and bartending down underneath my apartment. And I'm like, this guy seems fun. He's a comedian. Maybe he'd like to go with me, but I kind of wanted to go by myself. So it was sort of this backhanded invitation, and I'm like, he's never going to have black tie. This is just, who knows? Let's just see.
Right.
Sure enough, he used to work for this famous guy and met a bunch of celebrities himself, Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, and Andy Warhol, and all these people. So he just happened to have full-on black tie in the dry cleaning plastic. And off we go to the Saturday Night Live 25th anniversary party. And we had our first kiss on the balcony, and proceeded to get kicked off because we weren't supposed to be there. And
so the rest is history?
Yeah, pretty much. The rest is history.
Okay,
amazing.
So I have to ask, when you meet, what kind of celebrity meter person are you? Are you a weirdo, or are you super cool?
Totally nonplussed. I am not a star effer. I think they're just normal people, and I think they really appreciate my approach on that. It's like, so you're Bruce Willis, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that karma gives me more accessibility.
Yeah, a little cool.
Yeah.
Because really, when it comes down to it, who are they?
Yeah, they're more insecure than we are, probably.
Totally, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so you met Mr. Tom Van Voorhees.
Yes.
You guys were married when?
We dated for about 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
I threw him a epic medieval costume surprise birthday party because at the time...
that's what you do.
Yeah, sure.
Duh.
I was living... my apartment was up in the Cloisters in New York. Mm-hmm. It's a very old, cool... The Cloisters is like monk castle, so that architecture was really strong up there at that time, and I was just inspired by that. I was working in a Japanese cultural institute at the time with beautiful art gallery space, and they let me use it for this event.
Wow.
And people showed up from all over the country for this thing, and I didn't know anybody. I just, stole his address book and started calling people. Again, it was pretty much before the internet and texting and whatnot, so they're like, who is this weirdo calling me for about a birthday party? Okay, we'll go, And so that was, he says, the moment he decided he wanted me forever. And the day after our first date at the Saturday Night Live, he sent me a bouquet of roses that looked dead. They were fully alive, but dead looking. I'm like, what kind of dude sends dead-looking flowers after a first date? I like him. This is great.
Awesome, awesome.
And we produced his comedy show together for a little bit. It was called Googly Moogly, and it was in the basement. It was in the subway, actually, entrance called Siberia. And he had some amazing budding comedians that have gotten really big at this point. I don't know if you know Tom Cotter. He won America's Got Talent a few years ago. He's a good friend. Tom Shalhoub is on Fox. Buddy Bolton is on a show called Gotham right now, and John Bush is still doing stand-up, and they're hilarious.
Awesome.
Shout out to you guys. So yeah, we had a lot of stuff going on in our dating life, and then we got married on Cinco de Mayo in another Japanese cultural institute. We had a waterfall and what an artist made. It was just gorgeous. It was May 2001. Fast forward a few months was September 11th, 2001, and we just moved in together, and we had no kind of outside internet or anything. I just happened to be up that morning listening to a clock radio of all things, doing my resume, and I hate doing resumes, and all of a sudden on the clock radio, this random news started coming through about a plane hitting the World Trade Center, and I'm like, okay, what was that fake news thing where the aliens were coming and taking over? What was that? I don't know. I just felt like it was...
like, this can't be real.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, next work experience. And then the second plane hit. I'm like, okay, this is not normal. I started running up and down the the corridors and the stairs, knocking on my neighbors' doors. And, you know, like I said, we just moved in. Nobody knew me. Everybody else was going through this insane experience together and separately. And my husband, Tom, had just gotten his first cheese job because we were both in bars. And I'm like, one of us has got to get a job. So we got a job at this specialty food store focusing on cheese at the beginning of the cheese revolution. And anyway, he was going to Brooklyn, and his train was right under the buildings, under the World Trade Centers when the first plane was hitting, you know. And so I was a little bit stressed. I didn't know if I was going to see my new husband again. I didn't know if the whole world was going through this or just, you know, he landed in Brooklyn. There was papers flying through the air, and he's like, what's happening here? And,
right.
You know, so, wow. It was a really... we've been together for, it'll be, 17 years this May, 18 years this May. And one of the reasons I think we're so strong is because we went through all that just tragic crap together in the beginning. And, when you travel with someone, you learn a lot about how they deal with life when you go through these crazy experiences. So, that was the entree to our marriage.
Wow. And how long did you guys stay in the city after that?
Well, that was 2001, obviously. We'd both been there already like 10 years, 12 years each. We got through 9/11. We were married a couple years, and then I got pregnant with my baby. And we were shopping. This is another crazy, weird, life New York experience, if I may continue on that vein. But we were shopping at Bye Bye Baby in Chelsea, which was completely not what Tom wanted to be doing, but he hates
Why
shopping.
not, Tom?
Yeah, and I had gone into the restroom before we started shopping for all of our baby stuff, and all of a sudden the lights went out, and I'm like, oh, haha, that's a really funny prank to pull on a pregnant lady in a Bye Bye Baby bathroom. Felt my way out, literally along the walls, and re-entered the store, and all the lights were out. And everybody was like going, what's happening? What's happening? Again, that was the year of the blackout, the great blackout of New York City. And so everyone's trying to get updates on car phones, and just no one knew, again, if the whole world was coming to an end or if this was just in the neighborhood or in New York or what. And so it became pretty clear there were going to be no subways or anything for a while. It was August. It was hot. I was 8 months pregnant.
Oh, geez.
We had to walk 172 blocks to our apartment up in Washington Heights from Chelsea. Luckily, there were a couple of the restaurants that I'd worked at along the way, so there were bathrooms and welcome open arms for us. I couldn't eat the oysters, damn it. But again, it was sweltering hike all the way together. No one would let me on a bus or pick me up in a cab or whatever. But I just in moments like that, like when I was traveling abroad and stuff, I'm like, I'm doing this. We can do this. We didn't have to cross a bridge. We were really fortunate. We were on the island of Manhattan, and it was a straight line up home. But I just dig my heels in. I'm like, this is not going to beat me.
Exactly. Sometimes I think it's just when something looks huge and ginormous to you, you just have to put one foot in front of the other.
Exactly. Yep. Baby steps.
Just go. Just and keep moving.
And then you get there.
Okay. So you guys, again, so when did you make the trek out west?
Okay. So the cheese in Brooklyn was the first step, basically, in what ended up being our Great Western journey. There's a place called Murray's Cheese in New York where he graduated to, a cheese mecca. I ended up working there. We just got to know a bunch of different cheese celebrities, in addition to the farmers and the animals, and it just felt so great to be part of that movement, the local movement, the real food, slow food movement. And, after Oliver, he was about 4, and we got a car because Tom had to go into Staten Island to work then for another cheese establishment. And we realized we have a car. We can go anywhere and do anything. And we'd been there for 15, 18 years by that time. And it's a record living anywhere. I like moving around and new things. And so we're like, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? And we were just looking in Vermont and Maine and, back to home to Pennsylvania to be near my family. And nothing felt different enough, and so we knew David Gremmels and Carrie Bryant from the Road Creamery at that time from our cheese stuff out east, and we called them up and said, hey, what's the deal out there with you guys? And they said, oh, we're covered, we're good. And then we were going to make a choice, and then 2 days later David called and was like, I can't stop thinking about how this could work. Why don't you come out and check it out, And so Tom went and scoped it out, came here and scoped it out, and he called me. I'll never forget. It was February, and it was miserable and wet and cold. I had a new, little boy baby, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm in 70-degree weather under 100-year-old wisteria trees having barbecued oysters and craft beer. Can you guess where I'm talking about right now? Yeah. And I'm like, I want to do that. So I jumped on a plane, came and visited. I got a job at South Stage Cellars before they were just opening at the wine room. We got a house on C Street in Jacksonville, all through Craigslist, just in a matter of 2 days. I'm like, well, I guess this is meant to be. So,
I was just going to say, it's clearly meant to be.
It was fate. And so I went home, started packing up our life. Tom just started working. He didn't even come back. He started on Valentine's Day, 2008. And I put our whole life together. He flew home. We put it in a truck. We put it in our car. We grabbed the turtle and the kid, and we started on our way to Oregon. It was insane. It happened in a 2-week span, literally.
Wow.
And my mom will never forgive me for that.
No,
I
was just going to say,
Mom.
Yeah, Mom's pretty upset with you.
Yeah.
And first of all, a shout out to David Gremmels. No one like David Gremmels.
Oh my gosh, I know. It was just such a family feeling. We landed here on my 40th birthday. And the whole team, the whole family was like, welcome. It's amazing.
Anyone who you maybe meet for the first time who just wants to hug you is a good guy to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's very huggable.
He is very huggable. We love David Gremmels.
Yes, indeed.
So how did you then transition into the farmer's market? Because again, Tom, your husband, we should say, Tom Van Voorhees, is the manager at the cheese shop.
Correct.
For Rogue Creamery.
Yep.
I've been doing that for a long time.
10th year now. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Congratulations to him. And then you just sort of wine scene again, and then farmer's market. It just fit for you guys.
Yeah. Well, it took a while because Oliver was still little, and I always wanted to be there for him. I wanted that mom piece, So I just continued. The tasting room was great. I moved to the Jacksonville Review and did some editing and writing and graphics for that newspaper. Started a wine column. I did another column writing called Action Jacksonville because Jacksonville is such an awesome town.
Awesome town.
So the goings on of what's that.
Right.
And then I helped open the Frau Kemmling Schoolhouse Brewhouse. I was the general manager when they first opened. Hillary Kemmling's a great friend of mine. Yes. And so just still in the whole, and then I worked at Elements for 2.5 years with Chris Dennett and those guys. Again, it's so hard to extract from that restaurant life, the nightlife. It's in my bones. Oliver got a little older. I felt like I wanted to be home at nights then, and just a friend of mine was the GM at the Rogue Valley Growers and Crafters Market at the time, and I ran into her, and she was pacing out the spaces when they moved to the Commons, and I'm like, wow, that sounds like a super fun job, working for a farmer's market. And they're like, well, we're looking for a manager. And so, I don't know, that was 5 years ago. This is my 5th season.
Awesome.
I started out on Oak Street at the Little Guy, on Saturdays, and I assumed both Medford markets, and then I ended up taking over a lot more on the back end with the marketing and PR, and I'm the face of the market and the voice of the market, which is nice.
I like it.
Yeah, and every single week is a new challenge. It's open air, outdoors, people, weather, just it keeps me really busy and interested.
That's very good. Before we get to the final three, my final 3 questions, what is that?
Oh, these are my beautiful tarot cards. I mentioned in DC I got into tarot.
Yeah.
So you want to pick a card real quick?
Oh boy.
Yeah. I do that on the side too. I've been sort of, well, if it's scary,
no, let's
we don't
do it.
have to.
Let's do it.
These are my friends. And I do events sometimes with these.
Okay. So I pick a card and you can read something about.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple keywords.
Okay.
We won't go into any in depth right now. We'll do that over margaritas.
Yeah, margaritas and not in front of a camera.
Right,
please.
right.
All right,
This
pick
is
a card,
my
any card?
pack. Yeah.
Okay, let's go with this one.
Okay. Ooh, it's the Eight of Pentacles. It's about working hard.
Let me show.
It's about productivity and focus and putting your all into your craft, which clearly is what you do.
I try.
Yeah, and 8's a great number. It's you're on sort of a final third of a phase where you're going to start seeing the fruits of that labor.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about that card.
Yeah. Pentacles are great. They're about money and about material acclamation.
Okay, so. I like it.
Yeah.
All right.
Final 3?
Stacy Van Voorhees, the final 3. Best advice you've ever been given?
Best advice. Okay, so from my father, work smarter, not harder. Always.
I hear that in my newsroom all the time. All the time.
Short and sweet, and so real and honest. From my mom, love yourself. Because growing up 6 feet tall as a kid, it was really hard. And there were times when I'm like, I wish I wasn't like this. And she's like, you have to love yourself. So thanks, Mom, for that.
Did you ever do the, like, my husband's very tall. And he always said he tried to make himself not tall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now,
for sure.
yeah,
well, I hear her voice in my brain. And I wish I could impart that more on my big giant boy, too. He's a little slumpy, but... yeah, that really projects the self-love. So I gotta make it happen sometimes. I work at Costco too, and there's tons running around there. And at some points I'm walking down the floor, and I just literally roll. They say in yoga, roll your shoulders back for the longest time. I'm like, what does that even mean? But it really makes a difference, and you can feel the adjustment. So the third piece of advice was from my nanny Arna, and she said, wear compression pantyhose, because I was in the restaurant industry. That is one piece of advice I wish I'd followed, because...
Wait, why?
Because my legs are tired, honey. Oh my goodness.
Compression pantyhose.
Yeah, remember those pantyhose?
I did. Wait, what? Compression pantyhose. Okay.
She was ahead of her time.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. If you ever left this place, Southern Oregon, what would bring you back here? What would you miss the most? Well,
first of all, I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm stuck here.
Okay.
I'm going to say the vistas. Driving on I-5 to Ashland, it cracks me up every time, the cows along the side of the road. Because, I've driven in L.A. on I-5, and wow, it's so different. So the mountains and the animals, the waterfalls, the access to the coast, or redwoods on the coast, it's just ridiculous. It blows my mind. My mom came to visit once, and we're driving out in the Applegate, and she's like, oh, I guess that, and it's her second time visiting. She's like, I can see how you'd kind of get used to seeing this. I don't.
Come on, Mom.
No, I'm not used to it ever. Yeah, she's sort of a buzzkill sometimes.
I have my favorite range of mountains. It's right on the way to Jacksonville on Ross Anley, actually. And I never get tired of looking at them.
Yeah.
They're just beautiful.
And in the fields with the wheels, I just passed on Hanley Farms, and the sprinklers and the llama mound over there. Yeah, so
I'm okay with it.
And the West Coast vibe, I really like that. I've gotten kind of used to it versus the New York, DC, East Coast hustle and bustle.
Right.
It's nice, yeah.
And the weather, sayonara humidity. Yeah.
Yeah, the smoke isn't ideal, but at least we're not on fire.
Exactly.
We were for a second over there at Costco. I got evacuated. Anyway.
That was a big story.
Dramatic.
Okay, my favorite question. Yeah. If you were given a final meal and a final drink, what would that be?
I would say a surf and turf extravaganza.
Okay.
Heavy on the shellfish. And margaritas on the beach in somewhere like Cancun. Fabulous like that.
I love it. I love it. Stacy Van Voorhees, this has been really fun.
Yeah. I love talking to you, Trish.
I love talking to you. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes and you like it, please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps other people find us. We are also on Google Play. If you'd like to check out the video portion of this podcast, just go to ktvl.com, click on features, and then off script. Thanks, girl.
Thank you.
Roll those shoulders back.